Thomas was a farmer. He worked hard. He loved his land. Life was simple. Every day, Thomas woke up before the sun. He tended his crops. He cared for his animals. He never complained.
I am content. I have little, but I am happy. I believe in honest work. I trust in fate.
One day, everything changed. The village of Eldoria, usually a quiet and serene place, was suddenly abuzz with excitement and curiosity. The villagers, who were accustomed to their daily routines, found themselves caught up in an unexpected event that would alter the course of their lives forever. A royal procession entered Thomas's village. The king was old. He sought an heir. The sight of the grand procession, with its banners fluttering in the wind and the sound of trumpets announcing the arrival of the king, was a spectacle that none in the village had ever witnessed before. The king, with his regal bearing and wise eyes, had come with a purpose that intrigued everyone. The king had a challenge. He stood before the gathered crowd, his voice carrying the weight of authority and the promise of a new future. "People of Eldoria," he began, "I am in search of a worthy successor, someone who possesses the strength, wisdom, and courage to lead this kingdom." He hid a sword in a stone. The king continued, "I have placed a sword in this stone. It is enchanted, and only the one destined to be the next ruler will be able to pull it out. This is a test of true kingship. Whoever pulled it out would be the next king." The challenge was clear, and the reward was the throne itself. The villagers, filled with hope and ambition, eagerly stepped forward to try their luck. Each man believed that he might be the chosen one, the future king of Eldoria. Many tried. All failed. The sword remained firmly embedded in the stone, unyielding to the efforts of even the strongest men. Disappointment and frustration began to spread among the villagers as one by one they walked away, unable to claim the prize.
"Thomas, come, look at this!" Thomas's friend called out to him, his voice filled with excitement and urgency. "You have to see this, Thomas. Everyone's trying to pull out the sword. Everyone's trying to pull out the sword." The scene was chaotic, with people jostling and pushing to get their chance at the sword. The air was thick with anticipation and the murmurs of the crowd.
Thomas was curious. He joined the crowd. He had always been a quiet and introspective young man, but something about this challenge stirred a deep curiosity within him. He felt an inexplicable urge to see the sword for himself. He felt a strange pull towards the sword. As he approached, the crowd seemed to part, and the sword, glowing faintly in the stone, seemed to call out to him. It was as if an invisible force was guiding him towards his destiny. Could this be his destiny? Thomas stood before the sword, his heart pounding in his chest. He reached out, his hand trembling slightly. Could he be the one to pull the sword from the stone and change his fate forever? The weight of the moment pressed down on him, but he knew he had to try. This was his chance to prove himself, to step into a destiny that he had never imagined. Thomas reached for the sword. It was a moment he had never imagined would come. The sword, embedded in the stone for centuries, was said to be unmovable by anyone unworthy. Legends spoke of a hero who would one day pull it out and lead the kingdom to prosperity. Thomas, a humble farmer, had never considered himself to be that hero. It felt warm. He pulled. The warmth spread through his fingers, up his arm, and into his very soul. It was as if the sword was alive, responding to his touch, recognizing him as its rightful wielder. The light from the sword illuminated his face, casting a golden glow that made him look almost otherworldly. The sword slid out effortlessly. Everyone gasped. The crowd, which had gathered out of curiosity, now stood in stunned silence. They had seen many try and fail to pull the sword, but never had they witnessed such ease and grace. The air was thick with disbelief and awe.
"What? How did I do this?" Thomas's voice trembled as he looked at the sword in his hand. He couldn't comprehend what had just happened. Was it a dream? A trick? He looked around, seeking answers in the faces of the onlookers, but they were just as bewildered as he was.
Thomas was shocked. His heart pounded in his chest and his mind raced with questions. Why him? What did this mean for his simple life? He had always been content with his quiet existence, tending to his farm and living in peace. Now, everything had changed in an instant. He, a simple farmer, had pulled out the magic sword. The crowd hailed him. Cheers erupted, and people began to chant his name. "Thomas! Thomas!" They lifted him onto their shoulders, parading him around as if he were already their king. The weight of their expectations pressed down on him, making the sword feel heavier in his hand.
"Well done, young man." An elder who had witnessed many attempts to pull the sword stepped forward. His eyes shone with pride and hope. "You have done what no one else could. You are destined for greatness."
The king smiled. Thomas was scared. The king, who had been watching from a distance, approached with a warm smile. "You have proven yourself worthy," he said. But Thomas's fear only grew. He had never sought power or glory. The idea of leading a kingdom was terrifying. He didn't want to be king. The thought of ruling, of making decisions that would affect so many lives, was overwhelming. He had always been a follower, not a leader. The responsibility felt like a heavy burden on his shoulders. But deep down he felt a sense of duty. Despite his fears, there was a part of him that understood the significance of this moment. The sword had chosen him for a reason. He couldn't turn his back on this calling, no matter how daunting it seemed. He couldn't ignore this calling. With a deep breath, Thomas steadied himself. He looked at the faces of the people around him, their eyes filled with hope and expectation. He knew that he had to rise to the occasion. This was his destiny, and he would face it with courage and determination. The king saw potential in Thomas. He took him under his wing. He taught him about leadership, justice, and wisdom. Thomas faced many challenges. He learned to ride a horse. He trained with the royal guard. He studied law and history.
Remember, Thomas, a true leader learns from his mistakes.
Thomas stumbled and fell, but he always got back up. He learned from his mistakes. He grew stronger every day. The old king died.
I was crowned king.
He was nervous but determined.
I vow to serve my people well.
Thomas used his wisdom and courage to rule justly.
I will listen to my people.
He made their lives better.
I will never forget my roots.
He remembered what it was like to be a farmer.
I will rule with compassion and understanding.
Years passed. Thomas became a wise and just king. He brought peace and prosperity to the kingdom. He was loved by all.
Thomas built schools and hospitals. He improved trade and agriculture. He defended the kingdom from its enemies.
Thomas never took his power for granted. He knew it came with great responsibility. He ruled with humility and grace. Being king wasn't always easy. Thomas faced difficult decisions. He had to make sacrifices. He carried the weight of his people on his shoulders.
Thomas missed his old life sometimes. The simplicity of farming, the quiet joy of working the land.
But Thomas never regretted his destiny. He knew he was meant for greatness. He embraced his role as king with all his heart. Thomas ruled for many years. He grew old and gray, but his spirit remained strong, his heart remained pure.
Thomas knew his time was coming to an end. He chose his successor wisely. He ensured a smooth transition of power.
Thomas left behind a legacy of peace, prosperity, and justice. He would be remembered as a great and good king. Thomas's story is an inspiration. Born in a small, humble village, Thomas was just an ordinary farmer. He spent his days toiling in the fields, working tirelessly from dawn till dusk. His hands were calloused, his back bent from years of labor. Yet, within him burned a desire for something greater, a dream that seemed almost impossible given his circumstances. It shows that anyone can achieve greatness. Despite the challenges and the seemingly insurmountable odds, Thomas never gave up. He would often gaze at the distant castle, imagining a life beyond the fields. His heart was filled with stories of knights and heroes, tales of bravery and honor that he had heard from the village storyteller. These stories fueled his determination and gave him hope. It teaches us about courage, perseverance, and the power of destiny. One fateful day, an opportunity presented itself. The kingdom was in need of brave souls to defend it from an impending threat. Thomas saw this as his chance to change his destiny. With nothing but his courage and a makeshift sword, he joined the ranks of the kingdom's defenders. The battles were fierce, and the nights were long, but Thomas's spirit never wavered. From humble farmer to wise king, Thomas's journey is a testament to the human spirit. His bravery and leadership on the battlefield did not go unnoticed. The king, impressed by Thomas's valor and wisdom, appointed him as a knight. Over time, Thomas's reputation grew, and he became a trusted advisor to the king. When the old king passed away, it was Thomas who was chosen to lead the kingdom. His transformation from a simple farmer to a wise and just king is a story that has been passed down through generations. It reminds us that even in the darkest of times, hope and goodness can prevail. Thomas's reign was marked by peace and prosperity. He faced many challenges, including invasions and natural disasters, but his unwavering belief in the goodness of people and the power of hope saw the kingdom through its darkest days. His leadership inspired his people to stand together and overcome adversity. Thomas's story echoes through time. It is a tale that has been told and retold, each generation finding new meaning and inspiration in his journey. The stained glass windows in the village church depict his life, a constant reminder of what one person can achieve with courage and determination. His story is not just about personal triumph, but about the impact one individual can have on an entire community. It is a timeless tale of transformation. Just as a caterpillar transforms into a butterfly or a phoenix rises from its ashes, Thomas's journey is a symbol of rebirth and renewal. It teaches us that no matter where we start, we have the potential to become something greater. His story is a beacon of hope for anyone who feels trapped by their circumstances. It is a reminder that we are all capable of extraordinary things. Thomas's legacy lives on, not just in the stories and stained glass windows, but in the hearts of those who hear his tale. It reminds us that greatness is not reserved for the few, but is within the reach of us all. We all have the potential to rise above our challenges, to transform our lives, and to leave a lasting impact on the world around us.